today we're going to be talking about how you can maybe approach tough to fill roles in a bit more of an unconventional way, and how we maybe could consider doing something slightly different. Or Liam, as we've maybe colloquially called it within the team, polishing a tough to recruit for role. And there's probably lots of people on this call today that have got some, could be niche roles, but it's more often volume roles even that are really quite difficult to fill, or aren't necessarily the most glamorous roles in the world, and you're trying to find a way of how can we make those kind of roles more appealing to not just the masses but the right kind of people, because it sounds like qualified candidates is clearly a problem for a lot of people on the call this morning, and you're not alone based on what our clients are saying to us as well. So we'll do some intros, I think, next, Liam. So I was going to say, Liam, thanks for that photo, by the way. I don't know where you got that from, but cheers for that. So Dave Walstow, Associate Director at Creed. I've been in talent attraction and employee branding for 16 years now. I've been with Creed for 7 years, and I've had the pleasure, privilege working with Evri and Emma for pretty much those entire 7 years, I think, as well. So that's me.
Cool. Hi everyone, I'm Liam, I'm the Creative Director at Creed. I spend my time helping businesses like Evri to attract better candidates, deliver some really good ROI, all by using really smart creative strategy. Doing it now for 11, 12 years, something like that. Helps businesses of all sizes, achieve some really unbelievable results. So love to meet you all.
Yeah, and I'm Emma Smith, Head of Final Mile Resourcing for Evri. I've been in recruitment now for maybe 20 years, and that's been sort of public, private sector, and I've been at Evri now for 7 years. Like Dave said, been working with Creed for all of that time.
And just for people on the, although Tash did an excellent job of describing, it's probably better than I'm about to do, but just for anyone who doesn't know Creed Comms, we're an employee-owned talent attraction and employer branding full service ad agency, I guess you'd call us, based in South Manchester. We're about 26, 27 people now, covering client service and creative. So that's us in a nutshell.
Yeah, and for anyone who hasn't heard of Evri, so we were formerly known as Hermes, one of the largest parcel delivery companies in the UK. We have 20% of the market share, and we've got 20 to 30,000 active couriers at the moment, and that's kind of quite a big range, because it kind of fluctuates depending on the season and time of year. And you've probably seen us delivering for many branded names, well-known branded names, Next, Pretty Little Thing, Gusto. So yeah, that's Evri.
So we're going to cover really 3 things today, and all 3 of us are going to talk through different parts of this. We're going to talk about the use of personas to reach what is effectively, for courier roles, a very broad audience. So how do you make a broad audience feel like they're having adverts that are personalized to them, to make it pertinent and relevant to them and their needs? How to be bold with your creative and with your media strategy. This was about how we achieve some cut through to make sure we reach the right people with the right messages. And then critically, I think at the end, we're going to be talking about how this isn't reactive. This has got to be an always on, planning ahead, making sure that we're well ahead of what's coming down the road, and how we approach that now, and how we've honed that over the last 7 years, Emma.
So in terms of the challenges at Evri, so probably a lot of you thinking, well, to recruit a delivery driver, that's pretty easy. But these are some of our challenges that we experience throughout the year. So it's very high volume in terms of numbers that we do. And like I say, that kind of fluctuates throughout the year. We've got 2 peak times of hiring. So that's now as we approach summer, and then it's towards the back end of the year for Christmas. We have to fill absence, which can be very last minute. So it can be kind of on a Monday morning, we don't have delivery drivers due to absence. There is a negative perception of Evri out there, not as negative as it was. It is getting better, but there is that negative perception of Evri that we are constantly fighting against. There's increased fight for talent in the delivery sector, so there's a lot of competition And it's a lot of competition at the same times of the year that we're trying to recruit for. So we've got a lot of the same companies trying to recruit for the same people at the same time. We've got a lot of tough locations to recruit for. So whether that's because of it's quite a rural location, it might be quite affluent. We've got these very tough locations that we still need couriers in. We've got very big growth plans, so we never stand still. We're still growing as we speak. And naturally, with kind of this role, high attrition is another challenge. And like I said, it might be that you might think a delivery driver is really easy to recruit for because you do only need a driving license, but that can appeal to so many different groups with so many different reasons why they'd want to be a courier. And that could be parents, carers, students, semi-retired. So there's lots of different audiences that role would appeal to. And like Dave said and mentioned, we never stand still. So the future is always evolving. There's always new channels to advertise on. We need to stay ahead of the competition, and we need to stay ahead of the competition, especially at those two peak times of year.
So if we're going to be successful, kind of addressing those challenges, those quite big challenges, we needed to first kind of work out, who are we targeting? Why are we targeting those people? What are the motivators? And importantly, I guess, what can they offer Evri? What gap are they filling in those challenges that we just saw there? And the thing is, as Emma kind of mentioned, all you really need is a driving license to be able to do this role. So when you can pretty much hire everyone everywhere, Evri hiring people from Land's End to John O'Groats, you just need that driving license. There's quite a low bar to entry. That message can become very generic, almost too generic. You can, I'm pretty sure most of us on this call could probably do this role, and probably do a really good job of it as well. So there's lots of different people that we could attract and lots of different people we could talk to. And I think when your message is generic, it gets lost. And especially nowadays, we've talked about the age of like personalization. If you think about, all of the things that we love, our social media channels are all full of algorithms that put the stuff in front of us that we want to see, that is interesting to us, that's going to keep us on the platform. Offers at supermarkets on the apps and things like that are all tailored to our buying habits and our shopping habits and the time of year. I'm sure today we'll be getting beer and ice cream and stuff like that as offers through. So it's all being tailored to us all of the time. And, no one wants a generic message nowadays. Generic is boring. People want to feel like it's being tailored to them. People want to feel like they are heard. And honestly, this toast, because it's got my name on it, just became all of a sudden way more exciting. And I'm sure we all feel the same. If you were sat down about to have breakfast somewhere and they delivered toast and it had your name on it, how much more exciting would that be than a regular old piece of toasty loaf? It's just, that personalization just cuts through the generic. And, it's really important because only now at 10:20 this morning, I'm sure whatever we've done today, whether it's commuting to work, popping the TV on as we're eating our breakfast, we've probably been advertised to. And in that vastness of advertising nowadays, we kind of risk getting lost. Our generic message could just be forgotten about, ignored, scrolled past, switched off. And when we think about ads that really win and deliver results, they're the ones that either they spend big, so you throw loads of budget at it, you get it on every single channel, every single billboard in this image here has got your ad on it. It's going to cost you a fortune, but it's going to get cut through because it's different, the same ad on every billboard. That's quite interesting, isn't it? Or it's ads that use smart creative strategies. It's ads that are a bit clever about how they go about what they're doing. And that for us was the goal with Evri, to be smart with any creative that we were doing to help Evri cut through and stand out for the relevant audiences. So that audience that we were looking at, they had to feel seen, they had to feel like we understood them, feel like we were their friend, and we had something to offer them, something that would be of interest to them, something that would stop them scrolling, or take a little pause in their day to think, oh, that's interesting to me, or that might be interesting to a friend or a family member. I'm going to share that with them. And importantly, we had to show them that this role would benefit them. It's not just Evri looking for more drivers to fill, as Emma said, all of those absences and those peak times of the year. You know, we needed to offer these people something that was a benefit to them. A bit of give and get. You come and deliver some parcels, do some hard work. Not only will you get paid, but there'll be something else in it for you as well. And really, that was to make this generic role, this role that lots of people can do. You know, all 90 of us on this call can probably do it as long as we've got a driving license. But we need to make it seem hyper relevant, almost like it was tailored and crafted as a role for the people that we were after. So to do that, we kind of set about doing two things. We reframed 3 key audiences that were kind of crucial for Evri to be successful across last year. And also we realized that to be really successful, we needed to go after a different audience as well. So we defined a completely new audience for them and targeted towards them as well. So first one, and I think Emma kind of alluded to this, but you know, Evri needs to hire people by the coast. Coastal locations, tough to recruit for. I'm sure there's a few people on this call in a similar sort of situation. And we realised that as we kind of, through our insights and our research, that a large part of the population in these coastal towns, coastal cities are seasonal workers. You know, they are ice cream vans by the beach, they're cleaning caravans on caravan parks. And what that meant was that whilst there was a bit of a boom during summer, there were plenty of work around. It was great. That's where they earned a bunch of their money. As September kind of wound up, the work kind of dried up as well as winter and autumn set in. Good thing is that, as Emma mentioned, you know, we've got the Christmas peak at Evri, and that started to ramp up around sort of end of September, early October, which means that when the summer work dries up in sort of like these seasonal areas, Evri's got a role for you, and you don't have to stick around forever. It's not a job for life or anything like that. It's just a job whilst the seasonal work is quieter, and then when it comes back to the summer, I'm sure we wouldn't always want this, but they can just bin this off and they can get back to cleaning caravans and get their ice cream van back out on the road and various things like that. And you know what? Evri will be waiting for them in October, September as well when they want to come back to that. So it just kind of showed people that there was a different way of kind of doing this, and they didn't just have to stick it out, or you know, as I'm sure some people do, try and earn a bunch of money in the summer to see them through the winter. They can earn some extra money on the side as well, especially obviously with the cost of living, etc. The next audience was these rural spots, and I guess these maybe slightly more affluent spots as well. People living in these isolated communities. This role is a pretty tough role for Evri. You know, you've got very few people to recruit for in these areas. You've often got longer drives between deliveries. You know, they're not just like out on my street here dropping parcels door to door, door to door. They might be driving 10, 15 minutes between some of the parcel drops. And it kind of makes this a bit of a less attractive role. You know, if you think about what you hear out in the media and people talking about it, this is a paper drop type of role, paper delivery type of role. So when you're thinking about, well, all my neighbours are 10, 15 minute drive away from me, that becomes a bit more of a tough challenge. So we thought about what matters to these people, so these being out in these slightly isolated communities. We frame this as a role where they can get paid to be out and about in the community. They can chat to the neighbours. They can catch up with that person that they've seen before. They can, you know, say hello to the dog when they knock on the door and it comes to the door. All of these things, you know, these people are a bit more community minded. They're not like, I mean, the guy who delivers my Evri parcels, whilst he's great, he is efficient about it. He's definitely delivering hundreds of parcels a day and looking to earn some decent money. But there's others out there who want to feel a bit more like they're part of the community, and this was a way to really talk to these rural roles with that. And once more, you know, we could not inflate people's egos, but kind of tap into the fact that they've got that local knowledge and that knowledge of the local area, so they can, you know, nip around, nipping down the back roads, etc., to deliver these parcels even quicker. And finally, the third audience we kind of just reframed slightly was, I guess the most generic one, and this is, Evri obviously need people to get started pretty quick. The sooner the people can get started, the better. As Emma mentioned, some people might be ringing in sick this morning, tomorrow morning. So the more people they've got ready to kind of go in these areas, the better. So what we wanted to do was take that generic message of come and earn some money working for Evri, it can be a self-employed courier, etc., and just kind of like tweak it just a little bit. So those looking to make a bit of extra cash, those looking to have another job on the side because their part-time retail job's not bringing enough money. I want to kind of frame this as one that if you're working hard, this is a great job for you, and that hard work is rewarded quickly. You don't have to wait a month or 2 months for the payroll to come round and you kind of get set up in the system. This is about earning, getting and delivering parcels, and you can be paid in some instances within that week. So it's about getting that people realizing that it's not a kind of a commitment that they kind of need to be involved in for a long time, but they can get in and earn some money, and obviously see the benefit of doing that with Evri and stick around for a bit longer. Finally, like I said, we're thinking there needs to be more. There needs to be another audience. There needs to be something else we can tap into and really make this year with Evri a real blockbuster year for us and our partnership. And we realized there was a bit of an untapped audience, an audience that I guess controversially don't want this job. They don't want any job really, and not least a career job. Ones that, as we mentioned, get a bit of bad press. But there's people out there who have got these side hustles, who are setting up, beauty businesses, maybe dog grooming business, dog walking businesses, etc. Maybe they're buying and selling trainers. Maybe they're upcycling furniture. They're doing these passion projects, these things that they love doing, but maybe they're not quite earning enough money yet. Maybe they're just about earning enough to kind of pay the bills, but they need a bit of money to invest into the business or go on a little break with their family. And this role is kind of perfect for that. Essentially this role as a courier could support your dream job. So whilst you might not want this job, it's a really, really good way to support a dream that you might have. So this is like kind of the fourth audience that we kind of, like I say, discovered this one, framed it completely differently, and tapped into something that we've not really done for Evri before. Yeah.
So how did we then engage with the audience, I suppose, is the big question. I was going to say thanks, Liam, by the way, nicely teed up. And so I just think to start with, we just produced some kind of tailored creative, particularly to those first three audiences. So I'll let these play through, but you can start to see how we've used some of Evri's new branding to kind of reach these three different audiences. And a big part of it was making sure it's video led, making sure that it's eye-catching, making sure the headline is engaging, and that it's got very tailored wording, messaging, and visuals to appeal to each of those different types of audiences, whether you're seasonal or just need some money quickly, community-based, whatever it might be. These were created in lots of different formats, sizes, shapes, for lots of different media, which I'll come on to talk about a little bit later. But going right back to the title really of this presentation, and hopefully what kind of got a few people who are logged in today kind of wanting to come and see, was a little bit what Liam's just referenced here, which is, and I'm going to probably go a little bit more in on this because I think this was the big idea. And this is what we've got quite excited about at Creed. And I'm going to speak for Emma and say, I think Emma got excited about this when we presented it way back when. But we kind of went to Emma, and the bravery of Emma and the team at Evri was to accept this kind of, this I guess, this creative route or idea that not many people actually want to be a courier. And like with lots of jobs and lots of businesses, you're trying really hard to sell something that not that many people want to buy. You're trying to tell people how great something is. And don't get me wrong, it's not bad. It's a really good job and you're looked after, but it's not something, it's not a career or a role most people dream about. It's generally, as we've found over the years, quite a functional thing. It is for those people who just want a second job, or they just need a bit of quick cash, or they need some money for Christmas. It is generally quite a functional role that people do without necessarily having the passion to do it, and hence why there is the attrition levels and all that kind of stuff. And we decided to take a look at kind of going, can we play on this? Can we play on the idea that the role doesn't come first? Let's not try and sell the heck out of the role. Let's actually try and say what doing the role could benefit you in your own personal life, you know, put you at the center of this and not the company that's recruiting. And I think that was where I'll tip my hat to Emma, because we never know how these creative ideas that we pitch are going to land. And, you know, Emma bravely said, yeah, let's do it. And obviously I'll come on to talk about how it performed in a second. So if you can move me on, Liam, please. So as Liam's mentioned, we then coined this Evri hustle, and we started to go through a bit of research and understanding post-COVID. Lots of people had set up side hustles, personal trainers, volunteers. They might be caring for somebody in your family. It could be a dog groomer or a gaming streamer or whatever it might be. Lots of different people at different stages of their lives, and going back to everything I've just seen in the poll there, where people are talking about diverse candidates, you are talking to different people of different ages who've got very different interests. And this was looking at diversity from a interest standpoint rather than a, you know, how you look necessarily, I suppose. So this was a nice spin on that was more about people's personal interests. So if you can move me on, Liam, please. Just a couple of visuals of then how this looked. So I'll let you just watch these. So nice visuals that basically put you at the center and the role secondary. So what are you doing in your personal life? Are you streaming in the evening? Are you pruning in the morning? Or I can't see the one on the right, but we had a variety of these, probably about 7 or 8 different creative iterations that again were built across lots of different shapes and sizes. But it was primarily driven to hit social media. We really, Emma, I say it with a wry smile, but TikTok was as a key media channel that we really wanted to try and get into last year. And this gave us a really nice opportunity of doing short, snappy video creative that we could pivot on really quickly and just play to all these different kind of side hustles that people might have. So yeah, quite a very, very different route to what we'd previously done. And don't get me wrong, we'd been relatively creative in the past, but a lot of delivery businesses are quite functional. It's a picture of a person delivering a parcel, and then generally it's leading with the money or how much you can earn per drop or per day. And we tried to flip that completely to say, do this job and you can fund what you love. And obviously we wouldn't be talking about it today if it hadn't been a success. So we can probably move on then to the next one. I don't want to dwell on this because this really isn't a media and an advertising presentation. I'm sure some people will maybe want to know, where did we advertise this creative, or at least the adverts full stop. Things in white are the ones where we probably apportioned the majority of the budget. This is for 2023 activity, but a lot of this is what we've maintained going into 2024. But we used all these different channels across the last 18 months. And I think it's fair to say we've leveraged more video-led media platforms as a result of having that type of creative, and an awful lot of money's gone into those social platforms as well, where we've seen a lot of success this year. So strong creative using video-led channels, and it's been a really strong year for Evri. Just move me on, actually, Liam, just onto the next one, because that's just more visuals. But I think what we focused on from using this new creative on those channels was always on. We want passive adverts to be served continually throughout the year to those different personas. The first 3, the community, the quick cash, etc., all the way through to the hustle audience, to make sure that there's always something bubbling in the background, particularly in those tough to fill locations that Emma's mentioned. And Emma's going to come on to talk about how we manage that a little bit later on. I've mentioned that we led with, we prioritize video-led channels. We know that they garner the most engagement, have the most shares, have the most recallability. So we wanted to make sure that the video-led channels led the way. Targeting was tight. We needed the creative to hit those people effectively, so we didn't spend a ton of money as well for Emma. This would have been very easy to serve all 4 creatives to all people in all locations, which would have cost an absolute fortune. that was more about where are the locations that we're trying to reach, and which creative or which couple of creatives do we think are going to best work in that location to make sure we got the best bang for our buck. And finally, all this plugged into a dashboard for Emma and for us, but it allows Emma to see you can log in at any time, real-time data in terms of how many clicks we're on, click-through rates, application numbers, where the applications are coming from, the spend per channel, how we're doing week on week, how that differs. And this is just one tab of that, just to kind of see a lot of the stuff that Emma gets access to, and the Creed team get access to be able to move budget around effectively, stop things if they're not working, top up things if they are, et cetera, et cetera. And just a bit of I think results was important. We're talking about this today because not just because we loved the creative and we thought it was a great creative idea and a brave creative idea, but critically because it was successful. And I'll not speak on behalf of Emma. Emma can probably talk through this later, but we believe it was maybe the best peak ever. And Emma can come on to talk about that in a little while. But across the peak campaign last year, can see some pretty big numbers in there, and most of them had improved metrics to different degrees, but the most important one was the cost per hire went down, and I think that's ultimately what matters. Plus the number of clicks reduced, which for us indicates higher quality of applications, which goes back to that qualified element in the poll. I'm just going to hand off to Emma now, but this is basically looking at how we make sure that we don't sit still.
Yeah, so as mentioned before, so yeah, whilst we've implemented loads of stuff, it's all been very successful, we never stand still. So we now plan for a 12-month period. And as Dave says, we always have always on activity, and we can top up where needed. And again, that budget can be quite fluid, and we can move and shift and lift where we need to. We manage need weekly as well. So whilst we have kind of this always on activity, that can change weekly, and we can do that weekly, and we can manage that weekly. We have our obviously location hotspot. Again, so we'll have that always on activity, and we can top up those location hotspots if needed. And again, with the creative, whilst we've got a brilliant set of creative done, and it's worked, it's already been developed for summer, and again for our peak in the winter, because it ages quickly, it dates quickly. So again, it's around keeping ahead of that competition and keeping that fresh for applicants. Video content is next, hopefully, to bring that concept to life. And I think a big one here is around reacting. So we don't react. Obviously, we do. There is some element of reactivity that can't be helped sometimes, but reactivity, it costs more. It's loads more stressful, and it sends out the wrong message. So, you know, that planning for the 12-month period allows us not to react as much as we maybe had done previously. And it's a lot less stressful for me and everyone else. So yeah, so we're evolving our ways of working. So we do, you know, campaign for campaign is what we used to do. And again, like I say, we now plan for that 12 months. We've worked with Creed now for, like Dave said, sort of 7 peaks. So we've got a, you know, really robust planning for sort of 12 months. And again, we've got this always on activity. So rather than being reactive, we know where those areas are, where we need that always on activity. And again, we can sort of top up as needed rather than reacting last minute and things not going as smoothly as they probably could. And we've got wide coverage. So again, we've got kind of this nationwide presence. And again, we can top up where required. So that budget, we can lift, shift, move. And we can see from the metrics that are on the dashboard where we might need to do that. So we can do that where required quite nicely. And again, we have the planning. So we have the monthly planning, we have the fortnightly planning, but we can manage that need weekly. So again, if we all of a sudden see somewhere that's falling over, somewhere that's had a load of couriers falling sick that needs more applications, we can manage that weekly. We can help that and well, help the network achieve what they need to achieve.
And from a message point of view, we've gone from the Warburton's toasty loaf of creative small edits to the same thing kind of every year, to now we look at each audience and we update with a fresh concept each year, never assuming that we know our audience. As I was mentioned, we've worked for 7 peaks now, and whilst you think we'd know them, we always make sure that we definitely know them by continually testing and kind of understanding them. Things happen in the world, pandemics, cost of living, various other bits and pieces that change people's perspective on work and what work means to them. So we're always checking back in on that one. Once GIFs were popular and got really good performance, now it's more about video. So we're kind of evolving our ways of producing creative content, doing more video, be that stock video, or now hopefully this year kind of edging towards more bespoke concept-led video. It's a bit more to the audience, much more branded, Evri as well, to kind of increase that brand awareness. And then finally, true to our word, we're not stopped. Had a great peak last year with some award-nominated creative, but this year it's about building on that, checking in with our audience again, and developing another piece of creative work that's going to talk to them even better than it did last year, all with the idea of being designed to be scroll-stopping, audience targeting, and hopefully perception changing as well, to continually build that positive perception of Evri and this career role with Evri.
Yeah, just to wrap up then, thanks Liam and Emma. Just to wrap up before we can do some Q&A hopefully at the end. If they've got some learnings or takeaways over particularly the last 7 years, but we can talk about the last year, is always on activity does actually save you money. We see a lot of organizations who will just react, have to spend a lot of money to fill an immediate need because they let things go too far, and it ends up costing a lot more money to it that way. And I think that's probably the key message I'd ask everyone to take away from today. Yeah, I mean, I know this is a blunt way of saying it, but your audiences aren't stupid. Your creative needs to be authentic. It needs to be genuine. You can't sell them untruths, or if you do, they will leave fairly quickly. It won't help your attrition. So try and, I'm not saying everyone can do necessarily what Evri's done, but having that the bravery and creative to kind of say, look, this role might not be the be all and end all, but it will help you do the things that you love, I think is a nice take on how you can do that to achieve the cut through in point 3. And always look at, we talk to Emma about this all the time, and we talk to lots of our clients about this, is lots of businesses come to us and say, where can I advertise? And that's often their first question. And we'd rather say, who are your audience, who are your different audiences, where are they, what are their interests, what are they looking for in a career, how does that match to what you have to offer? Developing message that then talks to that audience, has that personalization and is proposition led, as Liam's kind of talked you through today, and then worry about where you advertise, because knowing your audience, having purposeful creative will help determine and pick the channels for you as well, and make that decision a lot easier, and obviously save you a lot of money as well.